Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving headfirst into one of Sherlock Holmes's most twisted cases. It's a story that kicks off with something as small as a single, mysterious pearl. But believe me, it spirals out into a massive tale of lost treasure, decades-old betrayal, and a murder that just seems completely impossible. So think about this. You've got a missing father, a priceless pearl that shows up like clockwork once a year, and a murder in a room that's locked from the inside. What in the world connects them all? Well, they all lead back to one single dark secret from the past, and that's the tangled web we're going to unravel in The Sign of the Four. Okay, so our story gets going in 1888. And what's interesting is it doesn't start with a crime. It starts with a puzzle. A young woman, Mary Morstan, shows up at Baker Street with a problem that's been brewing for a whole decade. Here's the rundown. 10 years ago, her father, Captain Morstan, just vanishes. Poof. Gone without a trace. Then, 4 years after that, she gets this incredible, priceless pearl in the mail. No note, nothing. And it keeps happening. Same day, every single year for 6 years. But now, something's different. A letter has shown up, and it's promising her justice and some long-awaited answers. So this letter, plus the only other clue she has, this really strange map found in her dad's stuff, it leads Holmes, Watson, and Mary to the house of this very eccentric guy named Thaddeus Sholto, and he just drops a total bombshell on them. He tells her, look, your father is dead, but you're an heiress. You're entitled to a massive treasure. But of course, it's never that simple, right? Just when it looks like Mary's about to inherit this huge fortune, everything takes a really dark and violent turn. The hunt for this treasure leads them straight to a crime scene that is, well, it's just bizarre. It makes no sense. They race over to the home of Thaddeus's brother, Bartholomew. He's the one who supposedly found the actual treasure chest. But when they get there, it's too late. Bartholomew is dead, murdered, and he's found with this horrible grin on his face, inside a room that's completely sealed. And this is where things get really weird. I mean, look at this setup. The door is bolted shut from the inside. The only window, also locked from the inside. There's no chimney, no other way in or out. The room is basically a sealed box. So the question is, how did the killer get in? And maybe even more baffling, how did they get out?
So, as you can imagine, the police are absolutely baffled. They have no idea what to do. But Holmes, he's in his element. He completely ignores the impossible locked room and zooms in on these tiny, almost ridiculous-sounding clues. There's a deadly poison thorn in the victim's neck, a single tiny footprint from a barefoot, a weird circular mark on the windowsill from a wooden leg, and, to top it all off, a note left on the body that says, "The Sign of the Four."
Yeah, so for Scotland Yard, this whole thing is just an unsolvable mess. But for Sherlock Holmes, these bizarre, random-seeming clues, they're not random at all. They're the threads he's going to use to piece together exactly who the killers are. This is where we get to see his logic just completely demolish what looks impossible. And this really gets to the heart of how Holmes operates. It's his most famous saying, right? When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. So while everyone else is staring at the locked door, Holmes is thinking, okay, what's left? The improbable answer, someone climbed in from the outside. And that one deduction, it blows the whole case wide open. And you can really see the difference between Holmes and the official police here. Athelney Jones, from Scotland Yard, he does the predictable thing. He arrests the brother, Thaddeus. It's the easy answer. But Holmes? Oh, he's way past that. He's already figured out who the real killers are. A guy with a wooden leg named Jonathan Small, and his partner, a tiny, incredibly agile accomplice who uses poison darts. So with this theory in mind, Holmes goes to work. He brings in a scent hound named Toby, and he activates his secret weapon, his network of street kids, the Baker Street Irregulars. They follow a trail of creosote left by the accomplice's feet, and it leads them all the way to the docks. And what follows is just this epic, thrilling boat chase right down the middle of the River Thames. Okay, so once they finally catch Jonathan Small, the whole story comes spilling out. And it is a huge story. We're talking about a backstory that spans decades, crosses continents, and it's all driven by the curse of this one treasure, the Agra treasure. And that note, this Sign of the Four, it wasn't just some random spooky message. Turns out it's the name of a secret pact, a blood oath sworn years ago in India by 4 men, Jonathan Small and 3 others,
who stole this treasure together and swore they'd share it no matter what it took.
So Small starts talking, and he lays out this whole incredible history. Years ago, during the Indian Mutiny, he and his 3 partners stole the Agra treasure. But they got caught and were sent to a penal colony on the Andaman Islands. Now, while in prison, they meet 2 British officers, Major Sholto and Captain Morstan, Mary's father. They strike a deal. The officers will help the 4 escape, and in return, they get a piece of the treasure. But Major Sholto, he double-crosses everyone. He steals the treasure for himself, bolts to England, and leaves Captain Morstan with nothing and the 4 to rot in jail. A total betrayal. So after this epic journey of greed, betrayal, and this relentless, decades-long quest for revenge, we get to the end, and the conclusion is just deeply ironic. Picture this. They're in the middle of the boat chase, the police are closing in, and Jonathan Small knows it's over. So what does he do? In one last act of defiance, he opens the treasure chest and starts chucking the entire thing, jewel by jewel, into the murky water of the Thames. His thinking was, if he couldn't have the treasure, then nobody connected to the men who betrayed him would ever have it either. So let's look at where everyone ends up. The Agra treasure? Gone forever, at the bottom of the river. Jonathan Small is captured, heading to prison for life. His accomplice, Tonga, was killed during the chase. But then there's the twist. For Dr. Watson, who has fallen for Mary Morstan, the treasure being gone is actually a good thing. It means she's not a rich heiress anymore, so the social barrier between them vanishes, and they can get married. And Sherlock Holmes? Well, he's left with the only thing he ever really cared about anyway, the intellectual satisfaction of solving the puzzle. And that's the beautiful irony of it all, isn't it? The very same empty treasure chest that means complete ruin and prison for Jonathan Small is the thing that brings total happiness to Watson and Mary. It really gets to the core conflict of the story, this battle between human emotion and pure, cold reason. You know, for Watson, the treasure was a barrier, a curse. But for Holmes, the chase, the logic, that was the reward. It really makes you think, what's the real treasure here anyway?